Hi, everyone. How's everyone doing today? So, guys, we are here to discuss Aidan Clune again. And today I am joined by his mom, Amy. Amy, how are you doing?
I'm okay. I'm okay. It's
So,
been
Amy,
difficult.
yeah, I can only
hmm
imagine. I'm going to go ahead and show this map real quick to show the area that Dylan, or I'm sorry, the Aiden. I got to get
hmm
this right. I want to show you guys the area that Aiden is missing in. This is the Palomino Ridge, is where they found his vehicle, and they believe that his tracks led up into this mountain range here. And so that in relation to where his hotel was and where where the Wells Hotel is. Hold on one second. Sorry about that. Kids are craziness in the background sometimes.
hmm
Um, So he stayed at a hotel in Wells, Nevada, and drove 50 miles south to the Palomino Ridge.
hmm
And that's where he left his vehicle. And
At
then
the
we believe,
at the yeah, he left it at the 23-mile marker.
okay. And then
That-
he went, his tracks led up into the mountain range over on this side, correct?
So he was at the north end of the Palomino Ridge, and then he went. He could have gone around it, but he went over it. He went over
Hmm.
the Palomino Ridge, came down the other side, and then headed southwest into the Cherry Creek Range.
Okay.
And he was pretty much going in a sort of direct direction. He was headed primarily southwest. And when the sheriff showed me, there was a snow cap that looked like an arrow. It looked like an arrowhead, and that he consistently, when they were tracking him, he appeared to be following that as a guideline.
Okay. All right. So that makes sense then. Once we're looking at the maps, and then perhaps why you guys had a difficult time locating him. So why don't
Yeah.
you tell us a little bit about who Aiden is, and basically the events leading up to his disappearance?
Yeah. So Aiden's been, he's worked a lot. He paid for his own truck. He's very into music. He picked up a guitar when he was in, I think it was fourth grade, and then took lessons. And then after that, he took lessons for a while, but he just started self-teaching and watching YouTube videos, and started to get really good on guitar. And then he started producing his own music. Um, he was very artistic. He was a sensitive kid, he also he was also as he got older, after middle school, starting to suffer from depression. Um, and he, we got him into some counseling once, but it was very difficult with Kaiser Permanente, which really doesn't have any business having a mental health program, because it's non-helpful. It's the opposite of helpful. And we struggled a lot to get him weekly therapy sessions, which is a thing that Kaiser does not like to do. But we went through this one process, and this was a couple years ago, and got where they kind of farm it out to, they contract with someone for a therapist group that does weekly sessions. So he had some therapy there, and it was something he struggled with a lot. He he had a small circle of friends that he had known for a long time. He didn't have like part of a huge thing, a huge circle of friends in high school. But as when he got out of high school, he started getting to know more people, work people. He was a really hard worker. The grocery store he worked at in the village we lived in, this customer came up to me, said, "Is this your son?" And I said, "Yeah." And he goes, "You should be really proud of him. He is such a pleasant, helpful, hardworking kid. You should really be proud of him." And I said, "I am." He was friendly with people and had a smile and for everybody. And but he was also super private. Like when he was in pain, he would hide that. He he had this thing about him where he felt like he had to do everything by himself. I kept telling him that, reach out for help with people. They could ask somebody about that. They'll help you, but he was really stubborn. Like he just felt this need to try and accomplish everything on his own.
It sounds
So
like he was very driven and independent then.
yeah,
He
yes.
just wanted to be able to do it. He wanted to be able to be successful on his own.
Like he wanted to prove something to himself. Yes. And when the pandemic hit, he worked, all the older workers left the grocery store and he worked nonstop around the clock through that. And people were people were super upset. And they come in the store and like, get away from me, don't touch me. I mean, it was, very difficult. People got upset, but he worked all the way through it. And yeah, he was driven. He was just a really hard worker, and he considered his music his calling, kind of like how Dylan felt like farming was his. That's all he wanted to do. That's all Aiden wanted to do. He wanted to write and produce music, and that's what he wanted his future to be.
Right.
Yeah. And so, but he was struggling. He was struggling when the pandemic hit and all of that happened. Uh, so he was working. Then there was school after. I remember it happened right around spring break. He really took a nosedive there. I mean, a lot of kids were suffering, and there was no help. I'm not kidding. And I mean, some of the counselors, the only thing that was available to him were some people who were uh, just there to talk, but he wanted professional help. He didn't want to talk to just some person. The high school was trying to set up some people, and he said, no, I don't want to talk. I want to talk to a therapist. So when we went through the process, and it was really hard. I mean, I had to be on the phone for a long time with a lot of different departments in Kaiser and stuff to get him a therapist. I think one of the people they contracted was called Beacon. And so we got a list of names, and he picked out this guy, which was an older guy. A lot of people came out of retirement to help kids with therapy. This guy had 2 sessions with my son, and on the second session, he told my son that you sound fine to me. You don't seem depressed, and we don't need to have another conversation. And
Wow.
fired
Just
my son.
brushed him off basically.
And barely had even got to the point. You know how it is with when you're in therapy. If anybody's done therapy, it takes a while to get to the stuff that's really bothering you.
Yeah, to build up
And
trust, especially for somebody who is a private individual by nature.
yeah, and I mean, Kaiser offered group sessions. Aiden said absolutely not. And they do offer group sessions, which is pointless because they don't allow you to talk about stuff that's bothering you so that you don't trigger other people. I mean, that's their program. And he said no to that. I mean, when he was going through so many problems, he really needed to connect with someone that he could trust, and that takes time in therapy. And I know a lot of therapists know that. And that man on the, I'll just, I
It's
just wish.
sad though because there is so many people who have gone through similar situations since the pandemic. The
Mhm.
pandemic really really hurt our country as far as mental
uh,
health goes.
yeah,
And so it's devastating to hear that they brushed him off like that. And in the
yeah.
bushes just said group sessions are pointless unless it's a targeted issue. I agree with that.
Hmm. Yeah.
Unless you're going to like rehab or Alcoholics Anonymous or something like
Hmm.
that, I don't see the point of a group session.
No, personal issues are personal,
Right.
so one-on-one. And
Hmm.
Kaiser just doesn't, they offer one-on-one. It works like this. You make an appointment, and it's 4 to 8 weeks out. And then they won't set up reoccurring appointments. Then when you get to the next appointment, 4 to 8 weeks out, then they set up another appointment 4 to 8 weeks out. Do you know what that is? That's like 6 to 8 sessions a year. That is
Wow.
not, that's not helpful to someone who is going through acute, issues and having, you mean maybe not to the acute, but like serious issues,
Mm-hmm.
serious issues. And so when school was going on, I mean, he was so depressed, I couldn't wake him up in the morning for him to get online to the school. It was really hard. And he just was spiraling down. Like he has a beloved teacher, Mr. Pericini, who, bless his heart, I mean, he really cares about Aiden. And he he called and contacted me at one point, and we talked about it. And so after the pandemic, Aiden graduates. He decides he wants to get a new job at Dutch Bros. And he didn't want to work at the grocery store anymore, and he met some people there, and I don't know how healthy of an atmosphere that was for him. But he was really independent, so he wanted to go move out. He moved in with he had a visit last summer with his cousin Jordan, who's now out of the Marines, and my brother, who also lives in Vancouver, and they had talked about getting a place together. So that started to happen, and it did at the end of February this year. And so I thought, oh, he's gonna be happy. He's gonna get out on his own. He wants to make music. He had some music connections up there, people who love to produce music, and he was super excited about that. So he had some girlfriends that he broke up with, one right around the pandemic, one that he just loved so much. And, there was like some interference from somebody else who kind of catalyzed that. And he was super unhappy about that. So there was a lot happening right around the pandemic. He went through that breakup, and it just broke his heart. And so later he had another girlfriend, and it was kind of involved with the Dutch Bro thing, and it just, he didn't want to. There was just some things going on, with a group of people. He didn't want to do what they were doing, and
Right.
he so he was happy. He's really happy to leave Dutch Bros to go up to Washington. And people who were interacting with him, like some of these new friends, Dutch Bros, and he's still very much friends with the people at the grocery store. They said he was fine before he went to Washington, completely fine. And he was there for literally 10 days, and he called me in the middle of the night, and he was frantic. I mean, he was scared. I could literally hear him shaking through the phone. He said that he was afraid of his cousin, and I believed him at the time. I thought, what? Because I guess my nephew had some PTSD, and so on the face of that claim, I was like, oh my gosh, Aiden, and so then he left Jordan's, and I was on the phone with him all night, and then he went to my brother's, and within 3 days, he started also making these various claims against my brother. And then I was like, oh, okay, what is going on here? I know this, this cannot be true. This is just too much I've never heard Aiden do this before, So then he went to stay, he left there, and he went to stay with one of his cousin's friends that he didn't really know that well, but had met through music. And this young man got me on the phone, and he said, tell me something about your son, because I've just been going through a lot, and I want to make sure he's honest, that he's not going to rob me. I said, oh, no, Aiden is honest and cash register honest as the day is long. He would never do that. And then this young man said, he must have stepped away from my son, and he said, does your son have any mental issues? And I kind of went, well, I mean, he was depressed for a while, and he had a bad breakup with a girlfriend, but I mean, nothing that I know of that's serious. That was the first time then I knew something was going on.
Up until that point, though, you had only seen him have, bouts of depression, but never anything as far as like a psychotic disorder or anything like that, just the depression.
Yeah, I never. So then I started realizing that something was going on, and I just wanted to get him home. So he had a tax return that was a big chunk of money, and I noticed that he was blowing through it really fast, which is, something, I guess when people, in hindsight, this is there's a lot of things that I realized or learned in hindsight. And that's like one of the things is just like impulse buying and stuff like that. And so I told him, look, he wanted to get an apartment up there. I said, you don't have enough money left to do that. Why don't you come home, save that, get a job, and just raise the rest and just get a studio somewhere. And I said, I convinced him, because he was just driving around and around. And I said, come on, come on down and back home. And he said, yeah, you're right. Okay. So he came home. And I noticed that he was, his behavior was, he was really relieved to be home. He said, I slept the best I've ever slept, because he had been so scared. I was so concerned for him. And I said, why don't you just take a break, Aiden? Take a break. You don't need to look for a job. Just be home. Just relax. Go for some hikes. Go skateboarding. Do Pokemon Go. And I do remember telling him, go out to the ballpark where there's really nice grass and walk around barefoot, because I heard the earth has like good ions that was good for you. It's good to like make contact with the earth. And I was just trying to get him to to kind of deflate a little bit from his state of mind, and which I thought was just fear driven. I just thought he got out of control, overwhelmed with fear. So a few weeks later, he wasn't telling me stuff like he got into an accident with he'd taken this girl rode with her to the doctor. She asked him to, and he said yes. He was always like that. Like, can you help me with this? And Aiden would say yes. He was super helpful with his friends. Yeah, sure. He always asked me, like, if my friend needs help, Mom, can he come here? Can they come here? And can you let them stay if they need to? Can you help them? And I said yes. And one friend he saw was having some trouble, and he helped him get a job. He was a good friend. He was a really good friend. Well, this girl got into an accident, and it tweaked Aiden's back, and he didn't tell me about it until later. And he said, Mom, my back is really hurting. And he came clean about the accident. And I was like, and you have got to tell me this stuff. I'm like, come on. And so we went to the emergency room, and they, said said ibuprofen, but there was nothing really seriously wrong. He just bruised his back, I think. So after that, he started, after a couple of, it was like 3 weeks or so, he started looking for a job. And I remember he wanted to get a job at the Sonoma market in town in Sonoma. But he had some kind of reservation about that, because there was a person working there whose best friend worked at Dutch Brothers, who had given him some trouble. And he told me, I don't know if I want to work there. And I said, well, how often will you see her? This, they paid really well. I mean, this was the nugget market, and they had really good benefits, and they paid every week, and they paid good amount. And so he decided, so he went into training for that. But I did notice that he was getting he had a very short temper. His personality it was starting to get out of control. And I kept telling him, please calm down. And so then I was calling, I called Kaiser, and they said there's nothing they can do unless he wants to go in and help himself. I called, like crisis lines, and I was like, please help me with my son. I need help. And they again kind of echoed the same thing. I said, I'm terrified when he leaves, and it's when he's here, it's very combative now. And so then
it's
they
because
said,
his anxiety was getting, sorry to interrupt, his anxiety was getting so bad at that point.
Yeah,
that he was just always afraid.
Yeah, he started getting very leery of people and saying, I think they're trying to do something or mess with me. And some of his friends later, when I talked to them, they all said the same thing. Aiden was fine before he went to Washington. And then when he got back, he started like taking circumstances and turning them into these more nefarious, situations in his mind. But he wasn't like hallucinating. He was becoming very paranoid of everything.
Mm-hmm.
So, and that's what everybody said. So then I was calling. I actually called his doctor. I called his doctor and I said, you know, Aiden, there's something wrong. Please call him in. Please do something. He's not okay. You need to help him. And they said the same thing. If he doesn't come in for help on his own, because now he's over 18, then we can't do anything. So I finally got in contact with some nonprofit things. I was calling everywhere in Santa Rosa. I said, forget Kaiser. I started looking, and I had been looking. And so I finally found this one with a sliding scale and a really nice guy. And he, and it was the night that he left the house. He said, I said, Aiden, will you please, go into counseling? I found this guy for you. We can do it. It's not a problem. And he said yes. He was sitting on the couch across from me, very calm, and he said yes.
And
then
that was on Tuesday, April 25th, correct?
I'm trying to remember.
It was that couple days right before he went missing that he agreed to go to counseling.
Yes. And then he was sitting on his phone, and suddenly this very alarmed look came over his face. And he said, Mom, I got to go stay somewhere else for a few days. I got to go. And I said, what's going on? He goes, nothing, it's fine. I just got to get out of Sonoma. I just got to get out of here for a few days. He had a check waiting for him, but he'd also quit. He worked one day at that market and quit because somebody had said something to him very upsetting. So that was Monday, he quit. And so, yes, Tuesday he just couldn't handle anymore, like people like giving him a hard time or anything like that. And I told him, okay, go ahead and quit then. And so he went in and talked to the manager on Monday, and the next day I think I was at work off and on. I was talking to him all day, and I came home, and then I asked him a therapist, and then he saw the thing on his phone, and he just started packing stuff really fast. And he did not pack a lot. He only packed, clearly, when I see what's in the truck, he only packed enough for a few days. He had every intention of coming home. And I said to him, I said, Aiden, he was going to he said he might go to his dad's, which he didn't have much of a relationship with, but he said, I just got to get out of the town for a while. And I said, okay, hon, whatever, I want you to feel safe. I said, but it's safe here. He goes, no, it's not safe here, Mom. And don't answer the door for anybody. Don't answer the door, Mom. And I said, Aiden, what is going on? He goes, it's nothing. I just got to get out of town. And just for a few days. And I said, well, honey, if you don't stay at your friend's or your dad's, please come home. Don't do anything risky, because he had been, out of sorts so much. And he said, I promise, Mom, I promise I'll come home. And then I called so he left. And he took a couple duffel bags. There's not. I got his truck back, and there's not that much in there. It was literally just for a few days. And so then I called his dad, or I texted his dad, and I said, "If Aiden called you?" And he said, texted back, "No, why?" And I said, "Because he's out of friends now, but he might call you in a little while."
And just to pause you 1 second there. So to clarify in the chat, this is all Tuesday the 25th that she is talking about, that he packed his bags and left his home. He was going to go stay with his dad. Didn't immediately go to his dad's. He was at a friend's house first.
Yeah.
But at some point before all of this even occurred, Aiden had been put on antidepressants. And Amy believes that those antidepressants may have altered his state of mind, basically.
Yes.
That he had an adverse reaction to it.
Yes.
She didn't find that out, however, until after he was already missing.
Yes.
Okay.
So I was here for a week when it first happened, and then I went home, and then I came back out for a week. And when I went back, I went around and started talking to people I knew. visited with, his friends at the market. He still went over there. So I talked to, there's a manager there who's friends with him, and she told me that about, she said she had talked to him before he was missing, which was about a month prior. Like it was like a week or two before he left that night, and that he told her that he was on antidepressants. Now this was a complete shock to me when she told me, because I had asked him to get on antidepressants, but like I said, he wanted to do everything on his own. He didn't want it. It's just like it was like a power thing. Like, I don't want you telling me what to do. I'm going to do it. And like I said, he was very private. So he never shared that with me, but he did share it with her. And he apparently he said, I was on antidepressants and they just changed them up. They just changed and put me on a new one. And she said to him, you should be careful with that because that can cause adverse reactions. And she said that he had changed them up, like I think that she said a month or so ago when he talked to her. So that would put it right about, like, if she that would put it in the ballpark of March.
Whenever
When
his behavior started to get extremely erratic.
Yeah. And so I did find a receipt when I went home that first time. I found a Kaiser receipt, but it just said like 1625. It didn't have anything else. He had taken it off the bag or whatever. And it didn't say what it was. And so I thought for a second, I thought, because he's had like skin issues, I thought maybe it was for a cream or ointment or something. And but I found that strange. I thought, he told me that he went to the doctor for his back, but I think he was not being truthful with me. I think he was getting a new prescription, or and he told me before he had gone to the doctor. And I was like, well, what's going on? He's like, nothing, Mom, that you need to know about. That's just how private he was. And so it's nothing for you to worry about. So that was news to me. I did not know. And in hindsight, I'm surprised, when here he is on antidepressants and just changed antidepressants. And at some point in there before he left, I had called his doctor's office telling them that his behavior was, he was having some, issues mentally. And they're just like, no, he has to come in. I'm sorry, but if that was a message I got at the doctor's office and they pulled up and saw that his medication had changed, I would think that they would call him in for labs. Like, we need to do some labs and stuff. It just ball drop, on their part.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Especially when their mother is calling in and saying that,
Right. Especially since you were making complaints that he was acting strangely.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
let's go back to Tuesday, and finish talking about, sorry, because I had interrupted you about how he was acting and the things that happened.
Yeah.
After you talked to his dad and he hadn't been there, I think is
Yeah.
where we were.
So then, I was pretty nervous that night. I was texting him, "Hey, where are you?" No answer. He blocked me. Hey, what's going on? Nothing. I started to get concerned, so I called his dad and I said, "Did Aiden come stay at your place last night?" And he said, "No. He said he was going to, and then he never showed up." So this went on. I was texting him, calling him, texting him, calling him, and then sometime around mid morning, he finally called me and he says, "I haven't heard from you." I said, "Aiden, you blocked me. And I sent him screenshots of all the times I called him, 13, 18, you know, all these texts and messages and phone calls I had sent to him. And he was like, oh, okay. He goes, well, I said, "Aiden, are you coming home now? And where did you stay last night?" He said, I stayed in my truck across from this park in Santa Rosa, where he used to play ball with his dad when he first was getting to know his dad. And I was like, why did you do that? I told you, Santa Rosa's gotten pretty, like a lot of places in America, not safe. The cities are just not safe, and there's a lot of stuff going down. And he said, Mom, I'm just, I just decided, I feel like everybody's kicking me out of Sonoma. And I said, what are you talking about? I'm not kicking you out of Sonoma. Come home. And he says, I can't do that. And apparently he, instead of going to his dad's, he had gone to his cousin's in Glen Ellen, just a couple of blocks down. And he told me he was at Bodega, which I was kind of like, oh, that's good, because he's, his soul place is Bodega Bay. That's where he goes, like, if he's upset. And I said, okay, well, let me know when you're back. And he didn't, and that's when I was trying to get a hold of him. But I learned later that he was down at Michaela's, and that Michaela's mother thought that he was, she said, on drugs. And I said, he's having a psychosis, I think, when I talked to her. And she says, well, he was looking around the house nervously because he said that they kicked him out. But she said they were watching a movie and he was acting strangely. And then he said he was going to go for a walk. And so she had her yard gated in. So she was going to open the gates, for the driveway. And as soon as she opened the gates for the driveway, he hopped in his car and he said, I think I'm actually going to go. And he drove away. Now, I never heard from her. I wish she would have called me. But she didn't. And then, then I couldn't reach him till the next morning. And he then said, he, had spent the night at the park. And I said, well, where are you now? And he goes, I'm not going to tell you, Mom. And I said, well, are you north or south of the gate, Golden Gate? And he says, I'm south. And I said, Aiden, I know you wouldn't be south of the gate. Where are you? He goes, Mom, I'm just going to tell you, wherever you think I am that makes you feel good, that's where I'm at. And I'm like, Aiden, oh my gosh. And so I said, you don't really have a lot of money. You haven't gotten your check yet. Just come home. And, I'm pleading with him. And he's just like, I can't do that. I'm not coming home. And then it was later, I think it was around noon, he calls me and he says, I'm going to go to Grandma's in Salt Lake City, Grandma Debbie. And then there were some calls from Debbie and all of this, a lot of calls going on. And they were going to get him they have a brand new travel trailer. They were going to set it up for him with sewage and electricity. And it was like he's going to have his own a place, which he's, desperately wanted. But as, the economy just doesn't allow for young people to do that unless they live in a room of in a house with 8 people. I mean, it's just horrible. Sonoma County has one of the highest rents in the nation. It's insane.
Right.
And so he was getting really frustrated with life about that. So while he was talking to me, before while he was talking to me that morning, before he said he was going to go to Grandma Debbie's, I was looking on Craigslist and sending him screenshots of apartments and stuff. I'm like, just please come home. Don't keep driving around, please. And then, so then when he called me and told me he talked to Grandma Debbie, was going to stay there. I'm like, oh my gosh, yes, just land somewhere, I just wanted him to land somewhere and to be with somebody. And I was either going to call, I was going to check in with him there and ask them how he was doing. And depending on what they were saying, I was either going to go out there at the least or call a 5150.
And
I don't know.
5150, go ahead and explain that to people in the chat.
Well, I didn't know about it. I wasn't going to really call it 5150 until I heard what happened later that day. So my plan was to go out there and I just wanted them to check in with him and see how he was. I mean, he seemed really happy. Debbie wanted to see her grandson. She was very happy. Her husband, Mike, was very happy. They were all excited. Everybody sounded really happy about it. And I was very happy about it. I'm like, oh my gosh, yes, just get him there, please. So I'm talking to him throughout the day about it, and he sounds really happy, and he's like, yeah, I'll just get a job at a Starbucks and just save up some money. He's going to stay there rent free, and it was going to be good and his own place. But then he starts asking me paranoid stuff about locks. How does that trailer lock? I said, it locks just like a front door. You can lock yourself in and lock other people out. That's how it locks. Mom, are you sure? And then I said, yes. Then he said, what have you not told me about Debbie and Mike? And I said, I don't know what you're talking about. I've told you, what do you mean? You know everything about Debbie and Mike, you know them. And I said, come on, honey, don't start doing this. This was at about 4:40, and he was getting close to Salt Lake City and starting to get paranoid again. All the
And
way on the road.
this is kind of how his behavior was, right? Like he would be perfectly fine and
Mm-hmm,
normal Aiden 1 minute, and then like an
mm-hmm.
hour or so later, the anxiety and everything would feed into his brain basically and just make
Yeah,
him extremely
well,
paranoid.
just being with people, like being in situations with other people, it would make him. He had very paranoid ideas about that. So then he said, "Well, I don't know, Mom." I said, "Oh my gosh, Aiden, please just go there. Give him a chance. Just go there, go there." And so then he says, "Okay." And I said, "Okay, call me when you get there." And so like I guess it was a couple hours, or maybe it was an hour and a half. I get a call from Debbie, and she says, Aiden tried to kidnap Mike. And I said, and she's frantic. And I said, what? And she said, yeah, he tried to take his phone from him. And when I talked to Mike directly, he said it happened like this. He said that Aiden met them at a gas station, told them that he didn't have GPS and couldn't drive straight to their house, which was not true. And so he met him at I guess, a Sugar Hill area, met him at a Chevron station there. And then he said, well, so Mike was going to have him follow him in his Jeep. And Aiden said, well, Grandma, Debbie wants you to ride in the truck with me. And then Mike said, he thought to himself, I don't think that's true, but maybe he just wants to spend time with me. And so he said, okay. And so he got in the truck. And then he said right before that, they were talking normally, seemed fine. And when he got into the truck, Aiden just sat there and wouldn't start the car. And Mike said, what are you doing? You have to follow my friend Terry. And Aiden just sat there again. And then he put the keys in the car, started it up, and tore off in the opposite direction going east. I don't know what highway that was, but he was headed east out of Salt Lake City. And Mike said, he said, what are you doing? And he says, I'm going to take you to Washington, Grandpa Mike. And he's like, what? He goes, you want to go to Washington? And Mike was like, well, Aiden, we planned a trip. I mean, I'm paraphrasing. Okay, this is, I might get some of this wrong.
Right. Right.
Wasn't there and stuff. But Mike said, well, Aiden, if you wanted to plan a trip to Washington, I might want to do that. That might be fun. But I can't right now. And then he realized that Aiden he was going 60 and a 25. And he got his phone out and he saw Aiden look at his window and look at his phone. And Mike knew that he thought that Aiden was going to try and throw it out the window. So he's pulling his phone away from him. And then right then, I think Aiden pulled over on this highway leaving. I forget the highway name, but I don't think it was 80. Maybe it was 80. Pulls over and tells Mike, get out. So Mike was out on that, and that's when Debbie called me. And I told Debbie, call the police. Call the police. Now, I told them he was unhappy and he wanted to get out of Sonoma, but I didn't say, like, I think he's, I just thought he would feel better if he left and got away for a while. And but then I told her, hey, this is a 5150. Call the police. Call the police. And I think she was being protective, or I don't know what. She didn't call the police, so I called the Salt Lake City Police and the Utah Highway Patrol, and I'm in full, fear. I'm calling everybody, and they're telling me, and I told them to go. He was at the Chevron station in the Sugar Hill area. Please, be on the lookout for his car. I gave him the plate number and the fact that it had a very distinctive. He damaged his right side mirror, and he put it on with he secured it with a black duct tape. So it was very distinctive, and it was I gave him the make and model and color and everything. And then I also had a connection to his bank account, so I was checking that like constantly. And I saw that he had purchased something on the east side of Salt Lake City, like leaving like a coffee or something. And I was like, oh my gosh, where is he going? I mean, we had family, not very much family left in Michigan. But I thought, is he going to Michigan? Is he going to Florida, where my cousins are? And I have 3 sisters there and cousins and stuff. And I was like, oh my gosh, I was really lost then. I had no idea where to call. So, but then I
You
saw,
you were hoping that the police would be able to stop him and that
yes,
you could get him checked into a facility to
yes,
see what was going on. Just to
yeah,
clarify for what the 5150 is. She was
yeah,
hoping to get him psychiatric help of some kind because it was very clear at this point that he was just spiraling.
yeah. He had he had escalated and into a situation where he did need to go in. And so I'm calling him. I said, I don't know. I said, I need a 5150 on him, and they have a different code for it. I don't know what it's called in Utah. And I had already, I had already put him in as a missing person in Sonoma County, which was zero help, zero help. And then when this happened, I had it escalated, missing, endangered. And when that happened, I had him missing, endangered, and still Sonoma County wouldn't help. I said, he's having some kind of primary psychosis. You guys gotta, and they said, nope, nope, doesn't meet the criteria. They were zero help. They said, he's not here anyways, nothing we can do. And they were really horrible to me on the phone. This one lieutenant, I think, starts with a F, his last name. And then later he told me I hadn't talked to him, but I had. I know it was him. I asked every officer twice what their names was and wrote it down. And then he denied talking to me about it. But anyway, there have been many missed opportunities with Aiden in this by a lot of people. I, I feel like there was something I could have done. I feel like something a lot of people could have done who came in contact with him, and they they didn't. They didn't take action. And then I was the 27th. So then I'm searching all night. I'm searching hotels. I see that he, I'm just looking. I'd really on the 26th, I was lost. I was like, where is he going? This the whole eastern side of the United States, you know. But then I saw that coffee, and I thought, I don't know where he's going, And so I called. I think I called Florida and asked if anybody had talked to him, and they hadn't. And so then early in the morning, I saw there was a transaction on his account. It was dated the 27th. Wait, so this was the 26th. Yeah, it was dated the at Chevron in Wendover. And so immediately I'm like, oh my gosh! So I start calling everybody. I called the Thule is county, and the Wendover police, and the West Wendover police, and the Elko County sheriffs. And I was just going crazy. It was dated the 27th though, so this was early the next morning, and I thought, okay, he's just been there. So the date stamp of the transaction was also the 27th, and the purchase and the post in the account was also the 27th. So I called this Chevron in I think it was Wendover, and I'm talking to the guy. I need to know what time that was. It was today. It was today, and he was saying he's looking through the transactions. I told him the last 4 digits of the card and the amount, and he said no, it was last night. Last night around 9 or so, between 8 or 9. So now it's the 27th, and now I am in this. I am spinning. I'm just calling everybody, and now I know he's headed west on 80. So I call all the hotels in Wendover, West End, and then I remembered that Aiden had said, well, I checked back and they told me that his cousin in Florida had received a text from him at 1 a.m. on the 27th, which would have been 10 p.m. on the 26th, saying, I found a safe place at the coast. So, and he had said something to me about what's San Diego like earlier too. So now I know he's west of Wendover, in West Wendover, And I'm looking at alternate 93, and I'm thinking he's going south towards San Diego, or he's headed that way. So I checked for hotels there, and there's nothing really. And then I finally start to check in Wells, and I was calling all of them. Nobody had seen him or anything. I'm calling the casinos. I'm calling gas stations. At this point, I was in contact with the Elko County Sheriff's Department, and there was a case open that day on the 27th. I believe, if not the night, the 26th, there was a case open. But on the 27th now, they said that they were putting him into the NCIC and doing a bolo on him, be on the lookout for. And then I was calling the NHP, called the NHP at about 1:15 in the afternoon. And I kept getting dispatched. And a few times when I called to the NHP, they said, well, who's got the case on this? And I said, the sheriff's. And they're like, then call the sheriff's. It's like they didn't want.
And that's the Nevada State Police, right? The NHP.
The Nevada Highway Patrol. And so I found throughout this whole process, it was so frustrating, playing hot potato, because the Elko County said, to get this, to call Verizon and ping his phone, you need to go back to the original jurisdiction you reported him missing in. They're like saying, then I call Sonoma County Sheriff's, no, he's not even here, we're not going to ping it, it doesn't meet the criteria. And I had a screaming match with this lieutenant, saying, are you telling me that an elderly person with dementia meets the criteria, a adult who's developmentally disabled meets the criteria, but a young adult with a psychosis does not meet the criteria? And it does. That's missing endangered. That's an endangered person who is not able to discern safety for himself. And so they were playing hot potato, and even in Nevada, between jurisdictions, they play hot potato. And you cannot let them do that. I mean, I finally made them put me through to the NHP, and at about 1, and I was on the phone for 8 minutes. I'm telling them the license plate number, all the features of his car, that I told them that he was reported missing with the Sheriff's County Department. I told them all this. I gave them the case number. I have a case number from an NHP. And then I still didn't hear anything. And then I just, all up until like midnight, I'm calling people. I called the NHP again late at night. Please look for him.
And you're talking about midnight on the 26th, leading into the 27th, or is this the 27th?
This is the 27th is where, I was calling. The 27th, morning of the 27th, is when I saw that gas station thing, and that's when everything started to go crazy. And I was just on the phone, nonstop, and on the computer while being on. I was just doing searches while I was talking, and it was absolutely crazy. And so then I got a call from Elko County Sheriff's Department on the morning of the 28th, and they said, we found his truck. This is on the 28th. And what I found out was that the NHP at 9 o'clock in the morning on Highway 93, and I'm talking about right when Aiden left his car, right after Aiden left his car, the NHP pulls up. His door is open. His wallet is on the seat. And there's nobody there. And he marks his car with that wax stuff, this is like, my son had just stopped his car just then. And then they marked it and then shut the door, locked it, and left. And I was at the NHP last night because the timing of this thing, it's, I'm pretty upset with how notification between the sheriff and the NHP went down, which was apparently not happening on the 27th, even though I was calling, even though there was an NCIC case opened, even though they had a bolo, even though I'm calling them in the afternoon. At that point, you know, if he was, they could have gone in and found him, you know? And so it was on the 27th that they also, the Elko County Sheriff Department said, okay, well, Sonoma County is not going to help. We're going to call Verizon and start pinging his phone. So they jumped in and hopped on that. You know, they weren't going to wait anymore on the 27th. We still didn't know where he was. And they were trying to ping his phone. They couldn't get a ping. So it was, you know, I think I don't know what was going on with Aiden, you know, at that point. But later we found out he was terrified. He was running. He was running from something. When they were tracking him on the 28th, he was running. He was hiding under bushes. And given the timeline of events around the NHP and Bill Lear seeing him by the truck at around 8:30, and his worker seeing him going back and forth between the fence with something dark under his arm like a blanket or a coat, this all happened in a very tight period of time. And so I know that Aiden he saw the NHP and he was running from them. He was scared. And it caused him to, are you still there?
Yes. So your theory was that he got his guitar, was getting out of the truck perhaps to sit on the hillside and kind of like relax, look at the view, things like that.
Mm-hmm.
And at the same time, the NHP came up and tagged his car, and having already been afraid and concerned about people chasing him or being after him, basically,
yes.
he got frightened and ran into these mountains, basically.
Yeah, I think he was actually going to go back to the car again and lock it up. I do. But then I think he was hiding in the trees. If you go there, it would have been very easy for him to hide. There's all these scrubby trees about 5 or 6 feet tall, bushy, you know. I think he was watching the NHP he was going to go back and lock his car up and go up on the hill. And then he went up the hill. He went straight up the hill and dropped his guitar. His guitar was found up on the hill of Palomino Ridge. And that's when he just got terrified and started running. You know, there was no contraband in the car, nothing illegal that they found. He was not wanted for anything, you know. I just don't know why he was so scared. I did tell him at one point, days earlier, I said, you know, just keep in contact with me, or, you know, I'll have to report you missing. And you know, it was kind of like, haha, you know, just keep in contact. And so I think he thought, I don't know if that played into it, like there was no reason so for him to be that afraid. And so I don't know if the NHP called out to him or what was actually happening there, but I'm convinced Aiden saw the NHP, and that is ran. And ran.
And then, of course, whenever the searchers went out, he likely would have continued to try to evade them, thinking that they were after him.
Yes. Yeah. And it's so unfortunate. And
Janice Martin, they do have his truck. He had left his truck there. He had no belongings on him, though, other than his cell phone.
He had his cell phone, his car keys. I think he was going back to lock the car door. Mm-hmm. And also there's another interesting thing. On the when he got gas, he also took out $200 from an ATM, and they found $33. When I picked up his stuff, there was $33 in his wallet, and I also had the receipt from his hotel room, which was $57. Well, there's like that means $110 are missing. And I you know, do the math. So you know, I kept telling them, there's $100 missing out of, you know, unless he has $100 in his pocket. I don't know why he would put, you know, $110 in his pocket, go up the mountain. And I just find that a little weird. And I also find strange was that when he went out the door, there was he had one of those bins from like you get from Costco or something. They're black with a yellow top. It's a hard bin, you know. And I saw him take one out of the house, and I'm guessing putting in his truck. That is nowhere to be seen. I kept asking the Elko County. I said, did they find a bin at the hotel? Did they find a bin in his truck? No, there's no bin. I have no idea what happened to that.
Yeah, that's weird.
Yeah, and I kept asking, did you check with the hotel? Was it left there? Maybe it was in the back of his truck and it blew out at some point. I don't know, but I don't remember it when he was taking it out being heavy. He might have had a blanket in there, possibly a blanket.
Right.
And that was gone. And so was $100. And I just, there's these kind of just weird things that they bug me. But
so when was the last time that you actually spoke to Aiden, and
so
that
on
conversation like?
I was talking to him all through the 26th. I said, please don't block me, Aiden. Please just keep talking to me. So we were texting and talking, and then I was talking to him as much as I could. And he was going out to his grandma's, and he sounded pretty happy. And until 4:30, and then I just left work after that. I was like, oh my God, what's happening with him? And then so later that night, so he called. He kept talking to me. I kept him on the phone as long as I could every time. And he said, I'm stopping at a hotel. And I said, where are you? And he wouldn't tell me. I'm not going to tell you, Mom. I said, I heard a semi truck. And I said, Aiden, what was that? He goes, I don't know. I said, that was a semi truck. I know that's a semi truck. Where are you? Wouldn't tell me. So later he goes, I have to go, Mom. And then he hung up. So then later he called me. I think it was around 9:30. And he says, Mom, can you read to me? Can you read something to me? I just need your voice. It's soothing. I want to hear you read. So I found a book to read to him. I was reading Jonathan. I was going through all of his childhood books were kind of like gone. And so I was trying to find something to read him. And my grandmother always used to play this Jonathan Livingston Seagull book in the car when we were riding with her. So I said, let's read this. So we're reading this, and he seems to calm down. And he's saying like, yeah, he sounded lucid. He was exhausted though. I could tell he was very tired. And he just said, I'm so tired, Mom, good night. But then he sent me something, a text, and so I knew he was awake. So this now is just after midnight. It's going on it was like 12:31 in the morning on the 27th. And he said, like, I just having trouble sleeping. And he goes, Mom, there's a door in my room, like another door in my room. And I said, well, that's just a suite door, like when families get 2 rooms. I said, just make sure your side is locked. I know he's concerned. He was concerned about locks and doors. And I said, just go over, make sure your side of the door is locked. They can't get in if your side is locked. And then he went and checked it. And he said, okay. And then I said, okay, well, he goes, Mom, I really got to go sleep now. I'm so tired. And he just sounded exhausted. So I said, okay, but call me when you wake up, okay? Call me as soon as you get up. And I didn't, so I woke up at 5 and I was like I thought about texting him and I thought, well, he'll kill me. He hasn't been asleep that long. He's only been asleep for 4 hours. So I resisted my urge. Anytime I woke him up, he would get really upset with me. I think a lot of teenagers do that. And so I resisted that urge until about 7:30, and then I sent him a text saying, "Are you up? Please call me." And once again, nothing. And so then I was frantic. That's when I started. This is when I started calling the police and getting frantic and seeing. I saw the thing on the bank statement, and then everything broke loose. And I just kept in between calling all these jurisdictions and hotels.
And so the police likely would have already been called by you then, whenever they tagged his vehicle.
Nope, they didn't call me.
Okay. No, but I mean, you had already contacted them though to let them know that this is his vehicle, this is what he's driving, this is the situation.
Well, yeah, the Elko County sheriffs knew. I hadn't called the NHP at that point. The Elko County sheriffs, knew about it. Well, I didn't know until the morning of the 27th when that gas thing came through. So The
Right.
27th was the blitzkrieg of me calling everybody.
Everybody. Okay.
Yeah, and so they pulled it over, but certainly later in the day. I mean, that happened at 8:50 in the morning. I'm calling the sheriffs. I'm calling everybody. That the dots should have been connected by 1:30 in the afternoon. When I'm actually calling them and giving them this information about my son's car, and nobody seems to know anything about it.
Right.
I mean, yeah, I had a real hard time with that. I'm
Right.
not gonna lie. It's eating at me. It's really eating at me. Yeah, and so by the time that they got everything together and figured it out, on the sheriffs went to his car on the morning of the 28th. My son had already been in the Cherry Creek Range overnight, and it's very windy. There it was like 30-mile-an-hour winds and below 40 degrees. And all he had was he did have a good North Face jacket on. I think he had a hoodie on too. There was CCTV from the Wendover Chevron, and he had a gray hoodie on, and it was kind of chilly out that morning too. So, but it wasn't that much colder. It wasn't that much more warmer than they said it was at night. But the winds were really bad. And so I believe he had a gray hoodie on. So my hope is that he was able to pull the hoodie over his face and have a hoodie and a very warm. This was I think it was like a 30-degree North Face coat. He had black high tops on. He had a black belt on. I don't know what his jeans were, but I know he had this black belt. It was a expensive buy that he did up in Washington. It was like a Gucci belt, you know, and so he's, you know, he'd already been out there
For a while, for 24 hours.
Yes, for 24 hours he had been out there.
So tell us a little bit about what assistance you guys have been getting as far as searching goes.
Well, in the Elko Daily Press, they listed a lot of stuff: BLM, Fish and Game. They had, I don't know if they had horses right there. They had ATVs. I think the horses came later. They had dogs. I think they couldn't do drones right away because it was too windy. And they tracked him. Now they told me they had a 3-man team that tracked fugitives. I didn't see that listed in the newspaper, but they did tell me that they were up all night. So this is already, they started tracking on the 28th and said that these guys tracked all night, and they track fugitives from the law. So what they do is they go in, they have night vision, and one guy in the middle follows the footsteps. And then when they lose them, the two guys at like 11 and 1 o'clock or 10 and 2 o'clock will fan out like in a they look in like clockwise directions. Like they'll look at 11 o'clock, they'll look at 9 o'clock and keep going until they pick up the tracks again. And then the guy in the middle, he's being GPS tracked, so that they keep following his footsteps. Then I guess at some point they said they jumped ahead. I don't know why, but they jumped ahead because they could see where he was going. They could see that he was headed in a southwest direction. Pretty much, they said every time they looked up, it was this distinctive snow cap on one of the mountains. So they jumped ahead and they found some more tracks, and they tracked him into the middle of the range. He was going over really rough terrain, down really, really steep, sides of these mountains, and he walked across the shoals. They had shown me when I went out there, they took us out, me and my friend out there a week into the search, and showed us some footsteps. And the Nike tennis shoes have a very distinctive concentric circle pattern on the heel and on the toe. And we could see it, And also the dirt out there is very loamy, kind of like walking on the moon, and chalk. When you walk there, and I had walked along out of his, along where his car was, you can clearly see the footsteps are very distinctive. I mean, you see almost everything in the shoe. But, wind and stuff over time just blows that all away. But they said they saw the way they were tracking him was like they could see the footsteps leaving his truck, going out, and there were some back and forth a little bit. And so they tracked him into this Cottonwood Canyon. And there I guess they lost his tracks for a while. They did see that he was up on this one hill in the Cottonwood Canyon, and we went up there looking. And when we went out there, me and my friend, we just saw one guy with a drone and another woman at a car. We didn't really see anybody else. So I don't know how many people were out looking for him, but they also said he had that the first few days, at least they had a plane going over with infrared. What else did they say? The Idaho search and rescue was there with dogs as well. And then as the week went on, they started using mixed use dogs for live and cadaver. And then, as they were looking in the second week, they were using cadaver dogs. And the sheriff, then they were using horseback. The sheriff went up there on horseback up on the mountain. They found, so they were going to give up after 2 weeks. It was on a Sunday, and they found very degraded tracks. They found some degraded tracks up on the hill, one of the mountains, and it was very far up. I was told 500 feet from the top of this mountain, which is super high.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that Aiden was trying to get a signal, because they worked with Verizon, and Verizon said they weren't pinging anything at the time, but they had a residual ping at 8-something at night on the 27th.
Right.
So the night he was in there was a ping somewhere in that vicinity at 8-something at night. So it was getting dark, and Aiden was trying to get a signal, and it might, it just kills me. This is killing me.
So let me read this real quick. It says, volunteers have covered hundreds of miles searching for Aiden, including over 157 miles with K9 units, 651 miles with volunteers walking, 85 miles on horseback, 265 miles on ATVs, and hours of searching with aircrafts. Almost 1,700 man-hours have been utilized during the search. And that was released from the Alco County Sheriff's Office, as well as these images of the different spots where they had found footprints and different types of tracks as they followed him through the mountainside. The problem is, after this short period of time, they've essentially left you guys to your own devices now, right? You have a search team going out this weekend, but it's not from the sheriff's office.
That's not entirely true. So so they looked longer than most people look. They did.
Right.
And the sheriff's department, and they could only use certain resources. They could use drones when the wind permitted, and when they could get the resources, because other people disappear and there's other stuff going on too. So they used what they could get when they could get it. And then after so then I was told, after they had to stop searching because the last tracks they found are degraded, and they did an all-out effort when they found those, taking these horses up and over the ridges of these mountains. I can't even imagine. And they were starting to search on the side going down, and I think they are going to be here. The sheriff told me there will be some searchers out. Now I just don't know if that's boots on the ground.
Okay, so they are going to be there this weekend then.
Yeah, they said they told me they were trying to get it together for Saturday too, and they mapped out some of the areas that they are interested in, and so, but they didn't detail, if it was dogs or just boots on the ground or what, but that they were trying to get that together for tomorrow as well, and I'm just trying to get something together with this Sierra Search, which has a autonomous drone that, it goes up in the sky. It's a real powerful drone. It goes up in the sky and it just does this grid, like it goes back and forth. on its own. It just gets set it into a predetermined area, and then it just does this grid and creates like 20,000 images.
Right.
Yeah, and I'm trying to get that together because I think Aiden's up there. I think he's up there on the side of them.
Have you applied for EquiSearch?
I did apply for EquiSearch, and I'm working with them to also get drones.
Okay, awesome.
So they had to get permission from the Elko County Sheriff's, and they did. They got the permission, and so they've got the maps that the sheriffs were working with, and they're gonna start mapping, and then they're gonna send drones out.
Excellent.
In that area. Yeah.
And so that's great, because that means there's 2 cases now, guys, in this small area. The EquiSearch is going to be assisting in with the drones.
Yeah.
And so absolutely amazing.
Yeah.
And so you guys have the Ruby, what is it? The Ruby Rebel Riders are going out?
No, the Ruby Mountain Rebels 4x4 Club are going to be assisting and helping me with the search. Because they can get back there, and they're going to try and use drones, but like I said, the winds might be too bad. And then we're just going to be boots on the ground searching, and driving up as far as we can and getting out and checking out some places. I also have Mike, Aiden's grandpa Mike. He's coming out, and I'm going to have a few other places that I'm just interested in that are easy to get to. He's older and won't be able to do a lot of boots on the ground, but I have these areas I want him to look at that are easily accessible by all the tracks that are like around on the outside area of the range. So I'm going to have somebody else out there doing that too.
Do you want to tell us a little bit about the GoFundMe?
So the GoFundMe was to get I live in California. I'm a single mom. I wanted to get a reward because I felt like somebody might have gone in and found him, because there are people. Shed season was opening and people were going in for that. It opened on May 1st, but I know hunters. Some people go in early, and
right.
I talked to Courtney Lear, and she said that her brother-in-law found a party scene up there that he had to clean up just prior, I think, when Aiden went in. So I know people are going in there, and I thought perhaps somebody had picked them up, and I was offering a reward for any information, $5K. I guess they wanted to get it up to 30, so I could do whatever I need to do to find him. Right. I have to do it.
Unlike the other case that is out in this same area right now that is not asking for assistance, not asking for funds, because they are set, you guys. They don't need assistance. This mom does. She is a single mom. She has no resources that she can pull in to help with this case. She needs a lawyer to assist in dealing with these organizations, and she also needs help to be able to go back and forth, a reward, things like that. And so it's a little bit of everything.
Yeah, to get family. I mean, I've bought airline tickets, car rentals, hotels. I mean, we're not from here. We have to move ourselves and pay to get here, to be here, all of that. And it's been, but people have been really, really great too. The Elko people. I mean, I've gotten some discounts. People have been so helpful. And just like whatever you want. Shutter's Hotel, I love them. They have been so good to me. And so that's helped, but I still need to pull more people in. And that was part of the problem too, is that we were just like floating in outer space out here in Elko. We had no connections. Dylan's family, I mean, this is a vast area, but people are close knit. You know what I mean? That people have connections. And all the connections I got were through Facebook. And I'm really grateful for the people of Facebook. And my friend was scouring Facebook. My dear friend, Missy in Idaho, was just amazing. She also knows like miners and stuff. And I guess there's a connection, with miners throughout Idaho, Montana, and Nevada. And so she was able to network through all this and find people. But it took time because, Dylan's family, they had connections in place already, and they had like a community to come to the rally for them. I didn't have any community here. It didn't. It was really, really difficult. And so I found, going home and searching up stuff on the internet, it was just not working for me. So, my family's out. I have some family out, and I'm going to be out for the search this Saturday.
Amazing. And so Duty Ron is actually in the chat. Welcome, Duty Ron. Duty Ron you have EquiSearch involved. And honestly, Duty Ron is really amazing with families as well, helping to interview them and helping to get their stories very, very public. And so hopefully we can make that connection between you two as well. That would be absolutely amazing.
Yeah, Aiden needs visibility now. To find him, we got it. He needs visibility, and I appreciate everybody who's helping me with that. There's a lady named Jazz. She has a site where she basically does PR for missing people on her own, and she's working on that right now to just like kind of get him. She got kind of overwhelmed with Dylan, and Dylan's all out there now, and on national news. But now I really need Aiden to get out there so we can find him.
Yes. And Missing in America, Jazz, she is absolutely amazing. Yeah. She's who connected me to you, actually. And so
she is amazing.
She's wonderful, the work that she is trying to do for families.
Yeah, and that's what I found, that there's people in this, unfortunate circumstances, people who this becomes their passion, and they do so much for families, and I have to say, I'm just so grateful for them. I mean, they've saved me. They've given me hope. I'm so grateful for these groups of people where this is, and I feel like this is something that I'm not going to be able to put down myself. Find Aiden or not, I'm never going to be able. I want to be a part of that, because it's a horrible thing to go through. It's devastating. It is devastating.
I'm so sorry.
Yeah. So,
is there anything else that you would like our audience to hear? Anything you want to add before we shut down?
Well, if anybody wants to help tomorrow, if there is a cancellation looking for Dylan, to come down to the Cherry Creek Range, there's a couple of, you can reach Josh through the Ruby Mountain Rebels. He's on, they've got a few pages out there, I think, and you can contact him through Messenger, or I think his number is on one of the pages. And come out and join us. Please come out and join us. Every bit helps. If that's been canceled, please consider doing that. Aiden needs to be found too. And my heart goes out to Dylan's family. I want them to be found. I feel like these are two separate circumstances. And I do want to address something that you mentioned to me, that there is a misconception out there about boots and shoes. Dylan's boots were found behind a dirt pile, and my son, his shoes were not found, but my son was taking his shoes off at times and walking barefoot. There was a sock print on one, and I just couldn't figure that out. I thought maybe his feet hurt, until I remembered telling him about walking on the ground because it's good for your energy. And I think maybe Aiden was doing that, or his shoes were never found. They didn't find one thing, not a wrapper, not a water bottle. They found zero, nada with Aiden. So I just wanted to clear that up. I mean, even though there's a lot of coincidences between these two cases. They're both about the same height, hair coloring, eye coloring, trucks, both have maroon trucks, both have the shoe thing that was going on, but they're separate, and they're definitely separate circumstances. And I would definitely say that Dylan's was under suspicious circumstances. And I would say that, I mean, my opinion is that there should be a criminal case open for that. And,
for Dylan's,
yeah, for Dylan, yeah.
Agreed. I agree
Yeah,
with that 100%.
yeah,
But you don't think the same for Aiden's case. You do think that he just went deeper and deeper into the mountains,
yeah.
essentially.
I do, but I am concerned that somebody might have come in and he saw some headlights and ran down, help me, and got
Hmm.
out of there. They told me there were tire tracks throughout there, but who is it? Is it Bill Lear's? It could have been anybody's. And so, but Aiden has never used his phone again. He's never accessed his bank account. He's never accessed his uh, social media. And I feel that doesn't bode well with that, with hoping, that my hopeful theory is that he got out of there somehow. And that did not deter me though from checking out other avenues.
Right.
There was one person in Lamoille who said they swear they saw him at the grocery store at Curry's Market in Lamoille. And I went on that and I checked it all out. But Mr. Curry is a wonderful man. He went through all kinds of footage, 2 days of footage, and they found a young man who had a black hoodie on, and it wasn't my son, but he was just so wonderful, and I want to thank him as well. And but I was taking leads. I was in Elko down where some homeless people were hanging out, and I was showing them posters. I went over to Tent City, and I didn't go in, but I talked to the woman who lived across the street. She has like a 10-foot hurricane fence and and lots of big German shepherds. And I talked to her, and I said, if you see him around here, I hooked up with the fish shelter and soup kitchen, and and got his face and poster circulated around there. So they were looking for him.
Hmm.
I would not leave any stone unturned. I'm not going to go. I'm not going to assume anything. I'm just going
Right.
to keep looking in every way that I can.
Absolutely. That's what we have to do.
Yeah,
And like Anne said, we have to be Aiden's army. And
yeah,
Duty Ron did just update in the chat. He says that Dylan's case is actually now a criminal investigation.
that is really good to hear. I am so
Yes.
happy to hear that. Yeah,
Um,
because as
Janice
it
is,
should be.
yeah, I agree. Janice is asking, is Aiden an only child?
He is. He's he's my only son. Yeah,
So many prayers for you. So,
thank
so
you.
many.
Yeah.
I
So
want to thank you so much, Amy, for
mhm,
coming on and sharing Aiden's story with us. This
mhm,
took a lot of strength for you to do this, and I know that I appreciate it. The chat appreciates it. Giving us this opportunity to learn about him as a person and to really connect with his case. I
mhm,
hope and pray that you are able to get the help that you need for these searches
mhm.
and that we're able to bring Aiden home soon, very
Yeah.
soon.
I'm still working with people to get more drones, like I said, drone searches and dogs. And I will not stop. I will not stop until I find my son. I will not. And I appreciate you letting me, be on this podcast and to get the word out that we still need searchers and stuff, and that I'm not stopping ever. And I appreciate that you let me come on here and talk about Aiden,
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
have people get
And
to know him.
and honestly, if you want to come back after the search and give us an update, even, we
Hmm.
will follow you through this the whole way. I hope to connect you with Duty Ron. Is it okay if I email him your phone number?
Yes. Hmm.
Okay, so I can do that as well. And for people asking in the chat, the search is at 6 a.m. Saturday, June 18th. That is tomorrow. They are
Hmm.
meeting at the Albertsons in Curry, Nevada. So
Hmm.
please, if you are able to go out and help, if you were
Hmm.
intending to help with the search for Dylan, his is canceled, but they do still need help for Aiden. It's only like I would say about 50, 60 miles away from where
Hmm.
Dylan was search was going to be.
Yeah.
Please hop down and go help search these mountains. They need as many people as they can to show up.
Yeah. And especially if you have experience, if people who've been in that area before in the Cherry Creek Range, we need you. It's a big area, and what we do have marked off areas that we're searching. So anybody, please contact the Ruby Mountain Rebels on the Facebook page, and one of the pages has a phone number to contact. I really appreciate it. I just want to give it as much as I can tomorrow.
Yes. Okay, Amy, we're going to go ahead and end it here. That way it's short enough that people will replay, and hopefully we can all hit the like button, guys, share it, and pray for this mom. All right. Thank you, guys. Love you all. Have a good day.
Thank you.